Thank you for tuning in to another episode of NBA Talk with Jaywalk, and welcome to podcast number 10 of this, podcast. Today we will be doing a brief mock draft, just my first mock draft for this upcoming NBA draft, and I'm going to be doing an NBA team preview on the Washington Wizards, so make sure to stay tuned. Okay, so first off, I just want to say thank you for an amazing 10 episodes so far of this podcast. Obviously, it's just been an experience. This has kind of been a learning experience for me. It's been just a great time being able to talk to you guys about what I can improve on about this podcast. And I'm excited to keep on going for the future. So, yeah, let's get right into the mock draft. Or my mock draft first. So I'm going to first kind of state the order of the mock draft, which I'm only doing the lottery picks, which if you don't know what the lottery is, it's just the top 14 picks. They did the draft lottery, and this is kind of how it turned out from picks 1 through 14 in the first round. So with pick number 14 goes to the Portland Trail Blazers. That is via Golden State. 13 goes to the Kings. 12 goes to the Thunder. 11 goes to the Bulls. 10 goes to the Jazz, 9 goes to the Grizzlies, 8 goes to the Spurs, 7 goes to the Trailblazers, 6 goes to the Hornets, 5 goes to the Pistons, 4 goes to the Spurs, 3 goes to the Rockets, 2 goes to the Wizards, and the number 1 pick for the 2024 NBA Draft is going to be going to the Atlanta Hawks. So, real quick, there are a couple surprise ones, I think, in this. I think the biggest surprise is Detroit having by far the worst, not by far, but the worst record in the NBA ended with the number 5 pick. The Pistons have had that kind of bad luck lately in the past couple of years of not getting the number 1 pick after having the worst record in the NBA. But yeah, they are at the number 5 pick, so that is going to be a little bit of a... That does suck for sure, but I still think there could be a very solid player there at number 5, and I will say who I think they will pick very shortly. And then I think the biggest surprise of all is the Atlanta Hawks getting the number 1 pick. They had a 3% chance of getting this number 1 pick, and they ended up getting it. So that's kind of crazy, and I feel like the Hawks, out of all the teams, they did not need the number 1 pick, but they got it anyway, so... let's get right into my mock draft. This is what I think these teams will draft. Obviously, I'm going to be continuing to do these. I think I'm going to try to do them every other week, maybe every week. I'm not sure. Because mock drafts change over time, just based off of players' draft combine results, which obviously just happened. And then, just over time, sometimes players just randomly get a lot more higher in their stock. In their draft stocks. So, I'm going to be doing them. I'm going to try every other week, maybe every week. I'm not sure yet. So let's go right away to the number 1 pick. I think, and we're going to do this very briefly. I'll dig deeper into the prospects more as time goes on and the closer we get to the draft. This is just going to be kind of the naming of the players and which team drafts them. So I think the number 1 pick, which is the Hawks pick, I think they will draft Alex Sarr from France. He's a big man. I think he's got a lot of promise. He's, in my opinion, the best player in this draft. And I think a lot of other people would agree with that as well. The number 2 pick with the Washington Wizards, I think they're going to draft Nikola Topic from Serbia. Now, I made this mock draft a couple days ago. And just recently, Nikola Topic actually just hurt himself, and he didn't show up to the combine. And that game that he was playing in, because he didn't show up to the combine, he got hurt. So that could definitely drop his stock a lot. I believe the doctor said he's clear. He's not needing any surgery, but that could be a concern for a lot of GMs looking to potentially draft Nikola Topic. So I could definitely see him dropping maybe 3 to 4 spots, which is crazy to think, but this draft is so inconsistent. you could see the number 2 pick being the number 10 pick in this year and vice versa. So you never know. Anyways, the number 3 pick, which is the Houston Rockets pick, I believe they're going to draft Reed Sheppard, a sharpshooter from Kentucky. He also has very good athleticism. He tied for the highest the highest vertical jump in the draft combine with 42 inches. Reed Sheppard's definitely going to be a tough player, and I think with Houston needing kind of a playmaker kind of guard, he could be really well, and I think he could pair up well with Jalen Green. At number 4, I think that pick's going to go to Rob Dillingham, the other guard from Kentucky. Rob Dillingham and Victor Wembanyama would be a really fun duo to watch. Rob Dillingham has a lot of promise, and there's a lot of people that say he could have gone number 1 if it weren't for, honestly, March Madness. So Kentucky likes to choke in March Madness a lot, and that definitely doesn't help Rob Dillingham's case. So, yeah. Number 5, the Detroit Pistons. I think they get a steal in this pick. I don't know how to fully announce this, but it's Zachary Rissachar. He's from France. He's a forward. He's a great 3-and-D player. He started the season off very hot from 3. He definitely cooled down as the season went on, but I think Zachary Rissachar, he's going to be able to translate his game to the NBA very well. And with how Detroit's building it, they do need another forward, and I think him and like Asar Thompson would pair very well together. So Zachary Rissachar goes number 5 to the Pistons according to my mock draft. The number 6 pick, which is the Hornets pick, I believe they will be drafting Stephon Castle from UConn. Stephon Castle, at first, his mock before March Madness was kind of lower lottery to outside of lottery, like early, like 15 through 16. But because of March Madness, his hustle, his ability to score the basketball, maybe not shooting wise, but just being able to get to the basket, it definitely helped his stock rise. So I think he's going to get drafted by the Hornets at number 6. The number 7 pick, which is the Portland Trailblazers pick, I think they're going to pick the big man out of UConn, Donovan Clingan. So 2 back-to-back UConn picks. I think Donovan Clingan is a very dominant player down low. He showed that in the national championship, and not just that, just in March Madness and the season in general. He's a great shot blocker. He can finish down low. Very mobile for a big man. So I think he's the second best big man in this draft other than Alex Sarr, obviously. The 8 pick, which is also the Spurs pick, I think they're going to draft Dalton Knecht out of Tennessee. Dalton Knecht, one of the more impressive players this year. If any of you watched him in March Madness, he was an excellent shooter, could score the basketball at all levels. And I think the biggest concern for him is maybe his defensive end, but I think maybe that's not going to be as big of a concern. I think he'll be all right in the NBA, and I think he could pan out to be one of the better players in the NBA draft. I think the only downside for him is he's 23 years old. That's pretty old for a rookie, but I think he'll do just fine in the NBA. At number 9, I think the Grizzlies are going to take Matas Buzelis, and he is on the G League Ignite. He's also another young prospect. And throughout this mock draft, you're going to see a lot of players that are more of a project player, and I think Matas Buzelis is one of those players that's just going to be kind of one of those project players. His shooting wasn't the best in the G League, but I think it'll be fine because in high school he did just fine, and from what a lot of people are saying, high school is the closest to compare to the NBA, like your high school abilities. But you never know. I think Matas Buzelis is going to be a very good player in this league. The number 10 pick, which is the Utah Jazz pick, I think Ron Holland is going to get drafted by the Jazz. Ron Holland is, a lot of people are very high on. I think he's got a high motor. He's got high athleticism. I think the biggest concerns with him is just his turnover rate. He's not the best at keeping the ball safe, and his shooting ability is definitely not the best, but I think Utah could live with that, and I think with them not necessarily trying to compete right now, they could use a couple years maybe where they try to just develop Ron Holland and get that jumper ready and his playmaking ability. The number 11 pick, which goes to the Chicago Bulls, I believe they're going to draft Cody Williams, and he's Oh, by the way, Ron Holland's from the G League Ignite. I don't know if I mentioned that or not. But yeah, Cody Williams, I think, is going to get drafted to the Bulls. He's from the University of Colorado. Cody Williams is the younger brother of Jalen Williams, who's playing on the Oklahoma City Thunder, the starter, not Jalen with an I, but Jalen with an E, because there's two of them on that team. But yeah, Cody Williams, he's another project player. He's a player that has a very good ability to get inside and finish at the rim. He also plays solid defense. I think the biggest issue with him is kind of playing on ball, like getting his own shot with the ball. I think he's a lot better off the ball, which, I mean, isn't really a problem. And especially with the Bulls, with Kobe White and Io, I feel like they can handle the ball while Cody Williams is just kind of moving around, making his presence known on the court. But yeah, the number 12 pick goes to the Oklahoma City Thunder. I also don't really know how to name or pronounce this guy, but it's Tijane Solane from France. He's a forward. He's, I believe, the youngest player in this draft at age 18. He will be turning 19, I believe, when the season starts. I think he's one of the most interesting prospects in this draft. He's got a lot of talent. I think he's one of the more raw players in this draft, though. I think, like, if he pans out, he could easily be the best player in this draft, but teams aren't going to want to draft maybe a player like him right away, just because I feel like the players before him are more established and they have more of a promise right now. Like Tijane Solane, or however you say it, I think he's got a lower floor, so he might end up being worse, but he's also got like a higher ceiling than a lot of these players, so it's kind of like a high risk, high reward type of player. So but yeah, I think the Thunder are going to just take that because the Thunder already have a lot of young players and they're good at developing. I think he would fit in very well with them. Next up, we have the Sacramento Kings at pick 13. And that pick is going to be Jacoby Walter, the freshman guard from Baylor. I don't know too much about Jacoby Walter. I'll have to do some more research, but I think the Kings needing a guard is for sure going to be the biggest thing for them. They do have De'Aaron Fox. They do have they do have De'Aaron Fox, but I think they could use another backup guard, especially to be able to get some buckets and score the basketball. So yeah. And then the final pick in the draft lottery, which goes to the Portland Trailblazers, I think they're going to pick Isaiah Collier out of USC. He knows how to space the ball well. He shoots very well. He finishes well. I think he's one of the more promising prospects in this draft. He's also another project player. He's very talented, and I think he's got a good future in the NBA ahead of him. So yeah, that's my mock draft at the start. It's gonna change, I think, in about 2 weeks, but you never know. The NBA draft is at the end of June, so I still got a lot of time to kind of evaluate and then finally do my final mock draft. So, yeah. Next up, let's go into the NBA team preview, which is the Washington Wizards. They finished as the second worst team in the NBA with a record of 15-67. They currently hold the number 2 pick, which is huge for them. They definitely need a lot on that team. There's a lot to work with, but they do have a lot to build on, and they need a lot to bring in to help this team make that next leap for the future. I think with the Wizards, they have, in my opinion, the worst roster in the NBA. Some of the key players they have on the roster right now is Jordan Poole, Kyle Kuzma, Tyus Jones, Denny Avdia, Bilal Coulibaly, and Corey Kispert. Now, Tyus Jones is actually going to be a free agent, so that could be an issue. I think Tyus Jones is going to find himself a team where he's going to go to a team where maybe they're looking to win a championship right now, because Tyus Jones is a very good point guard. He could be a starting point guard in the NBA for a team. I think Tyus Jones is very talented, but it's time for him to leave Washington, even though it's only been a year. Jordan Poole, he's kind of one of those players where he can be very good, but there's also nights where he's going to go, 8 for 25 from the field, and that could be an issue, and that's a player you don't want to build around. And then I also have Kyle Kuzma as a key player. Kyle Kuzma, once again, one of those players. I think he's good, but I don't think he should be a number 1, number 2, or maybe a number 3 option on a championship team. Then Denny Avdia, he's a very tough player. He got drafted a couple years ago, very young. He's got the floor spacing ability. He plays solid defense. I think Denny Avdia is actually a very solid NBA player. Bilal Coulibaly was a rookie last year. He had a very promising season, good defensive player. Also brought decent offensive stretches in the season, and I'm excited to see what he could do next year. He obviously had to end his season early due to an injury, but I hope he can come back and bounce back better than ever. Some notable free agents for the Washington Wizards is, like I mentioned earlier, Tyus Jones, Rashawn Holmes, their starting big man, and Tristan Vukcevic. Vukcevic actually had a promising end of the season, which he didn't really get a chance to play in the early parts of the season, but now that he got the opportunity at the end of the season, he really shined. So that could be a big loss for them, actually. And Rashawn Holmes losing your starting big man, and based off of my mock draft, they'd be drafting Nikola Topic, which would be a point guard. They're definitely going to be needing a big man. And when they go into free agency, I kind of wrote down like their positional needs, and I didn't find one position that didn't need fixing. So they literally need fixing in every single position. So they need to just go out there and they need to have a shopping spree. They have a lot of work to do. I think they just need to get lucky on some of these draft picks. Especially with number 2, they got to get a good pick here. So otherwise, I think the Wizards are still going to be rebuilding for the next for a significant amount of years, unless they obviously make a significant move. Like, for example, they make a trade for like an all-star, or they get a free agent splash in free agency. But yeah, this Wizards team, they've got a lot to work on. They're not good. I think, honestly, they have a worse roster than the Pistons, because the Pistons at least have a promising future. This Wizards team, like, other than Bilal Coulibaly and maybe Denny Avdia, they have no promise. I don't really trust in Jordan Poole and Kyle Kuzma to be able to get it done. I think this number 2 pick is going to be very crucial for them, but overall, I think the Wizards, they have a lot to work on. And then finally, I know I didn't say this in my intro, but I just wanted to clarify. I just wanted to say this real quick. To all the people and fans that believe that the NBA coach is the problem for a lot of teams being unsuccessful, you are more than wrong. Because I believe that a lot of NBA coaches are just used as the scapegoats, because even if they have a ton of good players, if they don't succeed, it's the coach's fault because of rotations and all that. Maybe we should start blaming not just the players, but also the GM. Okay, you look at not the Denver Nuggets, the Phoenix Suns. You have Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, and your depth is solid. I mean, actually, I think the Suns had a pretty good built team. Maybe that's the players' fault. So I was wrong on that one. So that's an example of the players' fault. I think the players definitely had the wrong there. And maybe it's just time to admit that maybe Kevin Durant without Steph Curry just isn't as good. I mean, Kevin Durant's still an amazing player, but he's still got to prove to me that he could win without Stephen Curry. And then you look at teams like the Lakers. The Lakers, they fired their coach, Darvin Ham, and they are also already kind of in the hiring process. But I think that's all the players' fault. I think this team had no depth, and they just couldn't perform. Like, you saw D'Angelo Russell go out there, and he just was playing super inconsistently, and he just couldn't score the basketball. So that's not Darvin Ham's fault. That's not rotational fault. That's just the players. Like, it's time to stop blaming the coaches for everything, and it's time to start putting some blame on the players, because the players are just doing as bad, if not worse. So yeah, that's my little rant. Sorry. Now in this podcast, I kind of want to be implementing some history of the NBA into this podcast. So basically what I'm going to be doing is asking you a question, and then you can either comment it or tell me what you think the answer is. And then in the next episode, I will give the answer, so you can make sure to stay tuned for the next episode. So here's the question. So there are only 2 teams that have never moved locations in the NBA. Who are they? So comment below if you're watching this on YouTube. Comment on the post I do for Instagram for the post, or just text me. Let me know. Give me an answer. I'd love to hear your guys' answers. And then, yeah, hopefully you guys can stay tuned so you guys could get the answer for the next episode. So, yeah, throughout this podcast, I'm trying to implement more like this history, like I was doing earlier, the random stat of the week. I'm trying to just do all this new stuff so I can kind of keep you guys involved as well, so it's not just me, you guys listening to my boring monotone voice the whole entire episode, because I know a lot of people don't want to listen to that. So I want to get you guys more engaged and more involved into this podcast. I'm also going to be making an account on Facebook, so stay tuned for that. I will be giving more, like, further details in the future. But yeah, that's going to be the end of this episode. Thank you guys so much for the support you've given me so far. 10 episodes now, and I'm getting better every single day, I think. I hope. So yeah, thank you guys so much. If you guys want any guests on this podcast, let me know. We've already done a couple guests before on one episode, but if you want more guests in the future, please let me know. Whether that's if they come to me in person or if I just do them talk with them virtually. I would love to be able to hear your opinion on that. But yeah, guys, make sure to stay tuned for this next episode 11. And God bless. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned.